Peace.
Peace, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of ARTdustry, where art meets industry. We are Rochelle Etienne-Robinson and Stan Substantial Robinson.
Indeed.
Today, as always, we have a special guest. In the house.
Yeah, man, the homie A1.
Yes.
Super dope, amazing indie hip hop artist. Has done a lot of groundbreaking things in the industry while preserving, the sound that a lot of us grew up on. You know what I mean? He's also co-owner of Don't Sleep Records. And more importantly, one of the many reasons why I got love for this brother, man, he's definitely he's a member of the Brotherhood of Fatherhood. You know what I mean? And he's married to a dope MC too. This dude is just winning on all fronts. So let's bring this brother in.
And he's from VA.
And he's not from.
Well,
not from now. Hold on. You can't be doing that to Brooklyn people. You know that might be a problem. You know what I'm saying? Can't be doing that to Brooklyn folk.
Well, we'll get into that in a minute.
You know what I'm saying? All right, let's bring this good brother in though. Clap it up, everybody.
Woo-woo.
Welcome.
What up, A?
Hey,
How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling great. I can't complain. How y'all doing out there? Everybody, I hope everybody's well.
We are, man. We
can't complain, man. Happy to have you here, brother.
Yes.
And
So
likewise.
we're gonna get right into it because I know we have a lot of questions for you regarding your creative journey and just your creative process. And so first and foremost, because all of us, the last 2 years have been challenging, in some ways rewarding. What has been your last 2 years been for you and your family?
During the pandemic, it started off slow. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what was going on. But then immediately creativity started to pick up as you at home doing nothing, waiting on, news or something to happen. So it got extremely busy. That's what happened to us. I just got really busy. So I've been just creating the entire time and just put my foot on the gas and didn't let up. And it's probably been the busiest that I've ever been, to be quite honest, in this whole journey.
Wow.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we started off with a little bit of a debate here on who you repping for.
Oh no, it's not a debate. You know what I'm saying? I feel like no matter where a Brooklyn person moves in the world,
you still from Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's forever Brooklyn. You know what I mean?
No doubt. So go ahead. Tell us. So okay, make it clear for us. So you were born in Brooklyn.
Yes, I was born in Brooklyn. Moved to Virginia when I was about 9 years old. Okay. And I've been here my whole life. So even though I was born in Brooklyn and I draw inspiration from Brooklyn, I'm very much a Virginian. Very much part of the ecosystem here in Virginia, predominantly in Hampton Roads, the 757, where I grew up, spent most of my time, and honed my skills. So I definitely consider Virginia my home. I love it, but New York just always has a certain energy that you just have to pull from, especially being the birthplace of hip hop and just timing. And, I think that a Substantial could relate, like, I know you went to school out there, lived there, you know what I mean, and the whole nine. And I think that you could relate to that energy being there while the timeline of hip hop is actually coming into prominence. So you can never ever imagine what that is for an MC, seeing it, just happen before your eyes. Like, I never forget being a little kid going to Albee Square Mall, and you just see the rappers that you just saw on Video Music Box. Right. So it just was a way that you felt like I can do that too, because they're right here. Right. Everyone is tangible. So I really appreciate New York for giving me that foundation.
Yeah. What was it like though, being from New York and then moving to a place like Virginia? Like, that I'm sure that culture shock, like, like one place is kind of New York is so busy, right? Like it just has a busy energy, even off the late night. You know what I mean? It might not be a lot of people out, but you just still feel like it just feels like there's activity all around you, even when you don't see other folks. And so, what was that transition like, going from that to moving to VA?
Interesting question. And honestly, I felt like that transition was more or less easy because even though Virginia at the time was different in the geographical sense, just the landscape was different. It was more green. I was from the concrete jungle where it was all asphalt and bricks. Coming to Virginia, you get that landscape, and especially in Hampton Roads. I lived on the peninsula, so I'm surrounded by water. Just a
Wow.
Wow.
beautiful place. But this is the caveat. I came with uncles and aunts that was teenagers in their early 20s. So immediately we found the trenches, and found and found the activity, and found where everything was happening. So I quickly found myself in Norfolk,
Hmm.
places on the borderline of my city, Newport, and Hampton, neighborhoods like Glen Gardens and Woodsong. Quickly found myself there, meeting kids from there, which we would call the urban areas,
Right.
but that's where the music was. That's where everybody was kind of congregating, and things would happen, musically, sonically. So I was drawn to that energy. I was drawn to the East End or the unsavory places because that's where the
Mm.
creativity is sparked, and that's where all my friends were from. So it
Wow.
wasn't that much of a difference, to
Right.
be quite honest with you, when you
Right.
look at
Wow.
it from that perspective.
No doubt. No doubt.
Right. What would you say was your first introduction to the arts?
I would have to say the jams in the park, the block parties. So, that's where I first heard the music. It
Mm.
wasn't the TV or the radio; it was right outside, and it was so different for me because radio. It's funny that radio became segregated because when I was a little kid, very little, radio was very gentrified. Before the advent of urban radio, you could be riding down the streets and you can hear a Run DMC record, and then they'll go right into like Queen,
Yeah.
another one bites the dust, because
Yeah.
the breaks were really heavy into the
Mm-hmm.
culture. It wasn't until the mid '80s when I started to listen to radio shows like um, Chuck Chill Out and Didi Red Alert, that I really was like just locked into hip hop. But I would say I got my first experience and taste of it outside, and I immediately wanted to be a part of that. And I also would like to shout out Video Music Box and Ralph McDaniels for bringing it, on public access TV right into the home, because I was from a neighborhood you couldn't have cable, but we had Channel 31. So, it made it possible for me to see videos and hear the music very early, as
Yes.
opposed to some of my friends who, had to wait on Yo MTV Raps. Ralph McDaniels was first,
Yep.
just so
Yes.
people
Yep.
Super
know,
fast.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
That's yeah, man. So a lot of times, as artists, we spend a good amount of our time honing our skills, ciphers in the crib, writing and doing shows, like showcases or open mics, not making any money, right? Doing a lot of things for quote unquote exposure. But at some point in time, your first paid gig came up. So like talk about that experience, when you did your first paid show, like, and what lessons did you take from that moment, transitioning from doing it for the quote unquote love, to like still doing it for the love, but now actually receiving something.
That's a great question. And I remember my first paid gigs. I started out really early getting paid off rap music
Mm.
because I came from battle culture, and there
Right.
was a lot of events in the 757 that you would sign up for the battle, and I just happened to be one of the people that always won. So I was always making money off of rap music
Mm.
since I really started, and jumped out
Mm.
there. In my early formative years, like when I was a little kid, now of course I wasn't making money. I wasn't even that good at that point. But by the time I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was already earning money, in battles and things like that, and local shows that, paid. It wasn't exorbitant amounts, but it was just still, you earned it because you had to
Right.
go through
Right.
these tournaments and these battles. So I felt like I earned it, and I walked away from it thinking, well, if I can make money, in a tournament setting, maybe it's time to do some other things. And that led me to making my own mixtapes and selling them and making money that way. So I
Dope.
just basically took my winnings and reinvested back into myself to continue to make money. And I survived several summers like that. I can tell you, like, I met my wife selling CDs, not directly, but when I met her, I was selling CDs, and my best friend, he was right along with me, and we would make a bunch of money, and then the end of the night go spend it at a club. We really irresponsible, but
Right.
but that's what you do when you're younger. But it made for some great times and great relationships that I built along the way. And I think that sensibility that I made it and I felt like I earned it. It wasn't given to me because I had to go through the battles and then reinvested in myself. That's what actually set me up for independence,
Right.
thinking that way. Like, all right, I made this. How can I make more? And when I started making money off the mixtapes, that's when I knew there was a possibility that you didn't need the infrastructure that existed to actually have some success. Like, I was literally making enough money, more than I made at my job, just waking up every day, going out selling mixtapes. So I knew then that this was a viable option. I just needed to fine tune it.
Right.
Yeah.
And what year would you say, when you say it got to the point where you were making more from selling the music than you were at your job? What year was this?
This was probably about 2003,
Gotcha.
2004. And even though I made it, I still kept working because,
Right.
I just felt like it's always better to have more.
Right.
Right.
It's always better to have a backup plan. I didn't get that confident until much later to where I just wanted to leave everything.
Right.
But that's when I really knew, like, and that's like almost 20 years ago, so
Yeah.
it goes to show this has been a long journey, but it's always been a journey that had benefits because of the way that I was able to approach it, and the way that my community embraced me and the people around me supported me. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better support system than the 757 and Hampton Roads, from
That's what's up.
doing the drops on radio to, the radio promos to even having my songs played on the radio. It just always was like love. So
That's dope.
um, yeah, it's hard to get that. And I know a lot of cats in VA don't get the same experience that I received. So I consider myself very blessed. But I got to shout out the people that really supported me, like DJ B, DJ Stress, some of the early adopters of A1 that put A1 on the radio. Two white boys in the beat, DJ Phoniks and Joe Super put me on the radio. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
love.
So yeah, man, it was always love. And that's why I love
Virginia's
Virginia.
for lovers.
Yeah, for facts, facts.
That's dope, man. That's dope. Yeah, I was gonna. It's so when I asked that initially, what I was thinking, I know a lot of folks had to pivot during the pandemic, but it feels like in the music industry, like we're pivoting all the time, right? Like every few months, the industry changes in some major way, whether folks are paying attention or not. And so, as someone who comes from the era where we were doing a lot of hand-to-hand sales, right, like physical sales, to now this digital day and age, I feel like you're one of the brothers from that era, who makes that throwback sound, who's managed to pivot extremely well. I think of brothers like you. I think of brothers like Funky DL, who've been in it a very long time, and has successfully pivoted on a good amount of times. Like, what do you attribute that to?
Um, I'm a fan of the culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm a fan of the art. So as a consumer first, I just think about what do I like? What approach am I using to consume music? And then I just jump on that. So, I remember I'm a big techie guy and iPhones came out. Had to have one. If I got an iPhone, I had iTunes, had to get my music up there. You know what I
Right,
mean? So
right,
the technology really drives my business decisions because that's how people consume music. And that's how people consume the art. People are no longer standing in FYE sampling music with the headphones on. You know what I
right,
mean? We not. I
right.
was one of those people that did that. That
Yeah,
went, listened, bought CDs every Tuesday. Every time they dropped, I was in line. I was out there.
yeah,
But those times have changed tremendously, and now the music ecosystem is set up to where the playing field is extremely level, but at the same time, you have to know where the audience is. So there was a lot of, I guess you could say, reverse engineering, where I'm just asking people questions, trying to figure out what the people want, and always staying engaged with the audience, and making whatever pivots necessary that I needed to do to, attain success at this level. And it hasn't been easy, and it also has come with a lot of pushback because everybody doesn't agree with the unconventional methods of releasing music digitally in the way that I would do it. An
right.
example is never pay for a digital on Bandcamp. It's going to be name your price, because why would I do that when people are going to go to the other platforms and stream it, because that's something that now just happens to come with the phone. You pay
Right.
for it, but people expect it just to come with the phone. So I think amplification comes with you give and you get, you give and you receive. So we give some things in expectation to receive more. And I think that's how we've been able to amplify a little bit more. And, you know, mid 2000s, vinyl came back heavy. That was another pivot, and I know you aware of that, you know what I
Yeah,
mean, because you've had vinyl and you still pushing it, and it came back heavy, and being an early adopter and building those relationships in that world also secures your spot, where now people are just trying to get in and they're priced out because things have dramatically changed. So I think being an early adopter also is something that is extremely beneficial for creatives. And
yeah.
creatives don't like to move a lot. We don't
Man,
like to
come on
move.
now. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on,
but
Pastor A1.
but and I say that to everybody that has a dream. You have to be flexible, because your flexibility is also your availability. And if you're not available, then you don't get the opportunity. You don't get
That's a
paid.
quote
That's a
right
So
there.
quotable. Your
Your
flexibility.
flexibility is
Your
your
availability. I need to write
availability.
that down.
That's a
Where's my
T-shirt,
pen?
brother. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, that done quoted the night so far. You know what I'm saying? Pastor A1 out here delivering.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
This is actually a great segue to my next question. You had mentioned technology and the importance of technology for creatives. So now we're going to talk about shop, right? So what soft skills, as far as programs, software that you utilize that helped in your development as an artist?
Oh man, it's so many software programs that I use, but my go-to is GarageBand. I don't care what anybody says. I use it.
Yeah.
I use it alongside Logic. So GarageBand is just quicker to get into and do something quick. Logic has more bells and whistles to it to get to polish the final product, but they both work hand in hand. And then there's also creative software that is used, like, and that's all on the phone, like all of the Adobe suites, Photoshop, everything, like anything you could think of that we make things with or try to get out there is important. I also think the Vasco app, the VSCO app for images, is really important. to
Mm-hmm.
sharpen up, the way you look online and on social media. Just so many different things. I try a whole lot of apps and technology just to deliver a better quality presentation of what we're trying to do. We selling nostalgia,
Mm.
but everything can't always look nostalgic. You have to
Yeah.
be in the new, in present day and time, but it just has to feel like it. I equate it to the automotive industry. Cars change a lot, but they don't change that much. And
Right.
then they soften the look of cars to make it look like something familiar to you, but at the same time, it's totally new. And when you think of the innovation in automobiles, Ford is one of the companies that they thrive with nostalgia. When you look at the Mustangs, they look like the older models
Mm-hmm.
in the modern time, and
Yeah.
that's done by design. That's so multi generations can feel a connection to it and be able to purchase it, get into it, and it
Mm-hmm.
all feel and all touches somewhere in their heart, soul. Like, oh, my granddad had a car like this, or my dad drove his car, and
Mm-hmm.
this car reminds me of that. And then you see
Yeah.
Dodge jump on the same bandwagon. So I think the American car makers understand the importance of nostalgia and the ability to um, infuse nostalgia into modern practices and making new products for people. So I'm a big proponent of nostalgic futurism, making people
Mm.
want that feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just trying to recreate the feeling that I got when I was 8 years old, listening to Big Daddy Kane. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what's
Man,
up.
yeah, I 100% feel you. I had this conversation. Our last guest was Natural, and after last our show from 2 weeks ago, when that finished, we probably stayed on with him afterwards. What, 2 to 3 hours? Like we were talking that night, just catching up because we had so much history with him. And one of the things we talked about, I talked about how when I was coming out, and over the years, I'm 20 plus years in, like I never really abandoned the core sound that I established early on. And it's partly because I know if I'm in this game long enough, this sound that I might abandon is going to come back around. And when that wave comes back around, am I going to be in the conversation? Will people mention me still? Will they remember what my contributions were before? I can't rely on that. So, let me keep at it. And let me, at the same time, find ways to kind of further my craft, right? Like still show growth as an artist, maybe even adapt some of the newer things, but still put that nostalgic twist on it so it feels authentic, right? And so, man, I feel that with my soul, brother. Like, from the moment I met you and started to do my research, like I see you embody that so well, man, and how y'all, display that through y'all business as well, But outside of that, let's talk about the parts of the biz that you enjoy most versus what some of your biggest challenges have been. And maybe those two overlap a little bit, but what are the parts that are most enjoyable to you and what have been some of your biggest challenges?
Uh, the thing that I enjoy the most about the business is engaging with people, being available to people. Like when I'm able to talk to people and I read the messages that I get, that's amazing. Like I never thought that I would have this many relationships, just from making myself available to anybody that hits me up. That's a different approach. A lot of people are unavailable to people, but I tell you, I've gotten every opportunity that I ever received because I answer those messages and read
That's
those
real.
emails and everything, because people are actually reaching out to either congratulate you, say how much they rock with you, or because they have an opportunity for you. You know what I'm saying? And they want to do business with you. So that's one of the things that I really enjoy is just kicking it with people about the music and how it may have touched them. The other thing is touring, which brings me to a bigger the challenge. Touring is extremely incredible. I can't wait to get back out and go back to Europe and in other continents, and go elsewhere. But what pains me is the geography of America. Our country is so big, that it makes, touring for hip hop acts, especially indie acts, very difficult. Just because of the geography, nothing else. It's not that people don't want to come out. It's not that people. That's not it. It's just geography in general. You could travel around Europe in hours. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just hopping on hour flights, going to the next country, getting on the train, going to the next country. But in America, we know that it's much more difficult to make that trek. Just being in one state is like being in a country and traveling in the country in Europe. So that's a huge challenge. And I've talked to a lot of OGs about it, and everybody has that gripe. So we have to do something about that. And I know promoters are getting snuffed out by the big corporations like Live Nation and some of the other corporate sponsors that sponsor big festivals and these communal events where they just want everybody to get together at one point of the year. But we really need to get a focus back on indie intimate gatherings here in the States, because it's really, even for me, it's hard to see my favorite artists. Like when the show comes around, it's like you gotta go because it ain't gonna
Yeah.
happen again,
Right.
especially for hip hop. So that's an unfortunate aspect that I don't like about the industry as it stands now, is that the underground or the indie is not getting the light that it needs to in America, even though streaming numbers, our record sales, everything proves otherwise, that we're doing well here. It's just that we don't have the backing or the corporate support to
Right.
really put together a network of shows. So that's extremely frustrating.
No, that's real. That's definitely real. Yeah. So real quick, we're gonna go to a quick ad break with our sponsor, Words Beats in Life. Shout out to them, man. Doing great work in the community. So we're gonna have a quick word from them, and we'll be back with more A1. So everybody hold tight, brother. You stick around, and we'll be right back. All right.
Hi, I'm Terry, or Rosina Terry Memelo, and I teach roses and concrete here at Words Beats and Life. Visual arts probably is one of the things that kept me interested in school and kept me attending. And then, of course, I went on to art school. It kept me motivated, it kept me focused, gave me a space to express myself, connections with other people, other artists. I teach roses and concrete for a few different reasons. One of them is working with flowers and making things is a great hustle. The same inspiration that I needed in school with visual arts, I know that young people need it today, and I believe that's what we pass on when we teach this class. It gives that hope, that inspiration to keep going. That's why I'm with WBL. So enroll in my class at wblinc.org/academy.
All right. Thanks again to our sponsor, Words Beats in Life. Clap it up for them. We appreciate the continued support. And we're back with more A1. All right.
Yes. And so, as you reflect on your career, and as Stan had mentioned earlier, with challenges as well as accomplishments, some of your accomplishments, and there's been many, you have had the honor of sharing the stage with some notable acts in hip hop. Particularly, we have Common, we have Oddisee, and several others. What would be your most memorable moment?
I think one of my most memorable shows was when we did a show with little brother at Hampton University, because my son was born, my middle son, my youngest son was born the day before.
Oh,
So I
wow.
literally was leaving the hospital going to do that show. He
Wow.
wasn't supposed to be born that day, but he ended up being born that day. He was a week early. So
He wanted to go
that
to the
was
show.
yeah, that was an incredible show. We had such a great time. Everybody was so cool, and I remember the lineup. It was Little Brother, um, Kev Brown, Low Budget, and us. And our crew at the time was the Soul Students. So that was an incredible show. And I would say another one was when we opened for EPMD down at Cat's Cradle in North Carolina. I think that was like '07. And that part of that show was in the documentary in
Mm-hmm.
Underdogs. Just a freestyle. I would think it was accordion. And the story behind that was we were just so hyped, and the stage was really bouncy. It was like maybe some faulty boards in there. Somebody didn't put it together, and
Mm-hmm.
the energy that we had kept having our DJs, Al Bum, shouts out to Al. The needle kept skipping on the
Oh.
original record, and he was hot. He was hot. I never forget his face. He was like, "Y'all gotta chill, quiet. This is all like cues. Like it was like it was like miming. Like he looking at us like, you know what I mean? And then he just threw on the accordion, and everybody just chilled out. And I zoned out on that, man. And that's how the show got started. And we just had a great show after that. So that those moments to me are most memorable just because of the backstories of what was going on during that time.
Right.
So I can never forget those shows.
Yeah, that's dope, man. That's dope. So I know you were just kind of going down memory lane, but like, we're in the now. And so I'm curious to know what you're working on currently. What's next? What can people expect from you over the next few months or next year?
Sure. So, but first and foremost, immediately, I have a new album that's coming out. It's called Infinite Wisdom, and it's produced by Soul Dope 95. He's a
No.
producer based in LA, and we linked up online through my best friend Rashard playing A&R. He
Mm-hmm.
found him, and he was like, he came to me one night, came over my crib, and he was like, "Yo, you need to work with this guy." And I listened, and I reached out, and then we started just talking through chat, and he sent a few packs of beats, and the rest is history. I started working with him actually right around this time last year, so June of last year, and I recorded up until maybe April of this year, and just getting the masters back. So that album, Infinite Wisdom, will be out very soon. Our first single, Timeline, we're getting that together right now. And we're gonna
Okay.
get that on DSPs within this month. Hopefully, if not early July, and then the album will roll out in two parts. The first half will follow the single, and then the
Mm-hmm.
second half will probably be the start of school. So maybe late August, September, we'll get that going, just so people can listen to the bodies of work, and we can have an ongoing conversation and maybe make it evolve, and maybe we throw some remixes out there too. I just want to try something different with a release because these news cycles and the way that we move, social media and everything,
Mm-hmm.
some of the greatest work ever is coming out. It's just being pushed down by
Yeah.
whatever new meme or whatever new TikTok or whatever new news story or headline is out there. So
Right.
we just got to find a better way to cherish the art a little bit more instead of making our music disposable, because
Yeah, for sure.
that's kind of what it feels like right now. So I just want to do things a little bit differently to keep everyone engaged and in conversation.
No, I feel you 100%.
Yeah, and you bring up a very good point about how your creative process, how things have changed, and how would you say your work has evolved throughout over the years?
Um, it's more solitary. Is I'm in more solitude now. I work alone more or less, and I like it that way. I used to immediately get opinions and share music with everyone. And I don't do that anymore. Even some of my closest friends, when I put out music now, they hear the final product. They hear what everybody else hear. They don't get to influence me in any way, because sometimes, you have to protect your energy as a creative, because other people would impose their ideas on you and then kind of take you off course. So if you believe in what you're doing, you should stay to that course and keep it very personal and close to the hip. As an MC and as a lyricist, I think that's an important part of not letting anything intrude or impede on your messaging, what you're saying and what you're trying to get across, because technically we are writers and poets, and this is like literary in my opinion. So somebody might say something and throw you off and change your trajectory of where you were supposed to go. So that's how I evolved. I'm more protecting of my art form until the finished product is out there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's funny, man, that you mentioned the literary thing. So we were messaged by a super fan of yours from France, and the brother wanted to know, like, if you would ever consider writing a book, like, to really document your journey and your different experiences. He really admires the music you make. He admires what type of man you are. He spoke on, like, how he admired you being a family man, and how all of these things affect the type of art that you create. So that being said, is that something you would consider? Is that something in your future?
I never say never. I've thought about it, but sometimes I'm so modest that I'm like, don't nobody want to read a book about me. Like, why would I write a book? Who am I to be writing a book? But I do have journals that I keep, that I write consistently.
Dope.
I probably have a book just of my thoughts, just that I write down, just to kind of decompress and reflect on the day or whatever was going on with me. So maybe that might be a part of something that people want to look at, to see what I'm thinking, my journey, and outside of just music, just who I am as a human being. Maybe one day I might unleash that, but I think it's a great idea, and I think that eventually I might feel that I'm worthy of writing a book about myself. But let the legacy tell it. There's a lot of books out there, they albums, man. That's what's really what I'm putting out there. But
Right,
I'm not gonna count it out, because I didn't think that anybody would want to see a documentary either. So,
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, man. Like, we saw Underdogs, man, and from one MC to another, I greatly appreciated seeing your journey, seeing, like, your accomplishments over the years, like, the relationship with you and your wife, all of those different things, and I'm sure many other people enjoyed it. In fact, I remember you posting about Master Ace actually stamping the documentary, and how much he felt it. And what did that feel like? Like, having a legendary Brooklyn MC bigging you up like that. I'm sure you grew up listening to him, right?
Absolutely. When you have one of your heroes, shout you out, it's the ultimate compliment that you can ever receive. Master Ace is someone who I respect, highly. Like, I have a high level of respect for his journey, and I actually model some of my independent sensibilities from what he's been able to do, in terms of just going from this huge mainstream artist to refining what he was doing for independence, and that's
Right.
incredible. And the staying power of that, it's like Master Ace has two different careers, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like the one career is a legendary, some people might say old school artist, back with the symphony, but people also have to understand he was extremely young, when he
Yeah.
started that career. And then he has the evolution of that, in the 2000s, with disposable arts, and
Mm-hmm.
that evolution, Long Hot Summer. You know what I'm saying? Like, and those albums mean so much to people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I happen to just been around for the entire journey, from the
Right.
symphony, on the road. You know what I mean? And all of
Mm-hmm.
that, and into that new independent era that he flourished with, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. And I admire artists that know how to constantly reinvent themselves and pivot in ways that make sense for the time. And he's one of those guys that just was
Yeah.
able to do that so well, to where, somebody's granddad knows who Master Ace is from what
It's
he did when he was
crazy.
a teenager. But that grandchild loves Master Ace for what he's doing right now. You know what I'm
Right.
It's
saying?
crazy.
And
Yeah.
that's when you win it.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
Symphony is definitely a classic.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. One of the things I wanted to point out too about Master Ace, that connects with what you've done. Master Ace has also occasionally over the years partnered up with, like, one producer to make a project. And you, although you got the new project coming where you've partnered up with a producer you haven't worked with before like that. Most people know about your work with Phoniks. So would you like to talk about that a little bit? Like maybe speak on, you know, that connection that you all have built over the years, the label, and also, like, what's so special about one MC and one producer doing a full length record together or an EP together? Because we see that formula so much in hip hop, and it usually works extremely well. So yeah, definitely could speak on that.
Sure, sure. Phonics is my brother. Like, we met in 2013, and immediately when I heard the music that he was sending my way, just he was listening to my first album and decided to send me some beats, and I was blown away. I listened, and the beats that he sent became my first album, Return to the Golden Era. It was like he knew what I needed, and I trusted him. Phonics is a lot younger than me, but I trusted his ear because it was amazing that somebody, 10 years younger than I was, knew exactly what I wanted to hear and was such a student of the culture and so educated in hip hop. Um, I knew that he was special. So that bond that we built has become a brotherhood over the years. He's family, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And uh, love him to death. But it takes me back to Guru and DJ Premier,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, uh, Eric B and Rakim. But
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
some people may debate that because there's a lot of large Professor Marley Marl talk in there, But
Right.
Pete Rock and CL
Yo,
Smooth,
smooth.
it
Yeah.
it just works. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? It really works. And then you got Master Ace and Marco Polo, so
Yeah. Shout out to
it
Marco Polo.
it works. And I think that what really stuck the producer MC formula in my head was '04 with Doom, rest in peace, and Madlib, Mad Villain.
Mm.
Um, that body of work was very stripped down, and I think that Villainy was the blueprint for modern hip hop, underground hip hop today. I don't
Yeah.
think that we have evolved even further from that. I think that we're still in that pocket, and there's people who still enjoy that stripped down version of
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia. But again, it came from one producer, one MC, and it's just easier, especially
Yeah.
when as an independent. We all know that it's very hard to get a few people together. Imagine what it takes to produce a whole record and how many
Mm-hmm.
people have their hands on it, how many other musicians you're dealing with, and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a logistics thing. Where the files, how someone wants to be paid. Are you directly talking to the person or talking to the manager or
Mm-hmm.
talking to the manager's manager? It can get really complex. And I think simplifying things is just so much easier for the audience to follow. It offers a lot of cohesion and a
Mm-hmm.
cohesive sound, and it's better for storytelling. So when you think about music, music is still a product, and every product needs a story behind it. You need to be able to tell a unique story about the product. And I think that what multiple producers, like a bunch of producers on projects, remind people of is corporations and just
Mm.
putting things together. Is I don't not cats who do that. More power to them. There's guys who make incredible albums with multiple producers, but I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's for a certain audience and that's for a certain type of product, which is a more commercial product that needs to be a certain way for a wider audience. But I think for what we do, um, cohesion is what our listeners want because I think that The independent hip hop listener is just more educated and well versed in um, their palette of what they want to hear, and cohesion seems to be a huge factor in if they rock with you or not. I read comments and I watch reviews of albums, and the main thing I hear, oh, it was all over the place. People like saying it was all over the place. I couldn't follow along, so I think
Right.
one producer does help that.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And what I was gonna say is, I another that's another thing I relate to a lot. Shout out to my Phoniks, Marcus D. I appreciate him. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And I feel like y'all are like we're multiverse. You know what I mean? Y'all a multiverse version of us, right? Like, or vice versa. You know what I mean? In a perfect world,
absolutely.
we be torn together at some point. You know what I'm saying? Get
Yeah,
that
we
Bop
got to make
alloy
that
and yeah, man, a
happen.
little substantial
Speak
A1
it into
Phonics and
an
Marcus D.
existence.
Put
Yeah.
it in the
Yeah,
universe.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
shout out to the brother in the chat. He's the I think Laurent is the one that sent the question
Oh
from
yeah, that's
before
my
that we
bro.
asked
That's my bro. What's up,
Yeah.
Laurent?
Bonsoir.
Yeah,
Bonsoir. Oh,
yeah.
it's mad late for him too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, in addition to being, of course, a talented MC, you are a business owner. You co-manage, co-own your own record label, but you also have another title, too. In fact, you are a husband and a father, and so how does that inform your decisions as far as how you approach being an MC and as a business person?
Oh, greatly. Everything that I do, my family is in my mind. For every decision I make, I have to consider my entire family, all my children, my three children and my wife. I have to consider how will my career decisions impact them. So that's first and foremost in every decision that I make. That determines if I'm coming to your city or not. That determines if I'm doing a record with you or not, how is it going to impact my household? And I think that that's just kept me grounded, and also kept me from making some bad decisions or decisions that wouldn't be advantageous financially nor worth my time at times. Uh, as MCs, we always want to do something. We always want to get out. We want to perform. We want to work. But sometimes you have to think that all money is just not good money. My Uncle Angel always would say that all money ain't good money. And it's the truth. So my family and their comfort and their well-being is my primary focus, and I make my decisions based off of that, because there has to be some balance, and I always consult with my wife. She's like my de facto manager. Every decision goes through her, whether people know it or not. So if I say no, blame Tiff. Nah, I'm just no, I'm just
That's
kidding. Nah,
real.
but she does help out a lot in terms of just making this thing work, and she's a better judge of character than me, so she like got the spidey senses up. So um,
That's why you got to keep the
she
wisdoms around.
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, absolutely. She does the smell test on everything,
Yeah,
and
right.
yeah, but it saves me a lot, and
Hmm.
saves me financially, saves me from a lot of heartache and a lot of frustration, because there's so much work that goes into making a product that actually gets out to the people, gets out to consumers, and we want to make sure that it's always on point. And you need a second set of eyes to do that, and who better than the person who knows you the best?
That's real. That's
Absolutely.
super real.
I concur.
Yeah, man. Listen, hey, yeah, look, she said it before I was. I was about to. That's the quote from Bamboozle when they were talking about Charlie Baltimore. She had dropped the gem, and they was like, "That's why you gotta keep the wisdoms around," you know. But
Facts.
super facts, yeah, man. But so listen, so as you reflect on your career, what would you say are like? What would you say is the biggest lesson that you learned over the years?
The biggest lesson that I learned is give everybody a chance. Somebody gave me a chance. So me giving, younger producers a chance or a young director a chance benefited me greatly from
Yeah.
just returning the favors of the universe. You know, the universe bestowed some big brothers and OGs on me that showed me the game, that gave me opportunities, and I have to be that same big brother or OG to people that's coming up that are
That's what's up.
extremely talented that also need an opportunity to flourish. And I think that's super duper important. And I wish more artists would see that because I think that we would have more longevity for some of the cats out here. But you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You know what I'm saying? I shout out to my kids because they helped me to stay open, you know, and keep me abreast on what I need to be doing. And I pay attention. The other thing is being observant. You know, that goes hand in hand. Just give people a chance, be observant, make sure you don't get too stuck into your own ways or to your own routine because the world, excuse me, the world doesn't stop and it's constantly changing and our situation is constantly evolving and we just don't know what tomorrow will bring. So keep an open mind.
Yeah. Well, that was beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's funny. You answered what our final question was going to be while also answering the last question because we were going to talk about advice for emerging artists. But I feel like that right there, man, that was a major gem. So appreciate you, brother. Definitely appreciate your time and your contribution, your constant contributions to the business of music and the art that you've been sharing with the world, man. You know, I have a lot of respect for you. Your name has come up so many times before we met because of the type of hip hop I was making. But then when I met you, I was just kind of watching your journey and seeing how you move business wise. You know, like it's one of those things where you realize like you're grateful that your name is coming up in certain conversations with certain people. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, this is a brother. I don't mind. If when his name comes up, my name comes up, I'm doing something right. So man, salute to you, brother, man. You know, much success to you, blessings to your family, all of that. You know,
Absolutely.
And likewise, man, and likewise, like you know, when it comes down to you, DL, Marcus D, you know, 49ers, all y'all brothers really kept me motivated and also showed me that there was another lane and another opportunity because I think we all um, came out at the same time, you know, and I got to work with Marcus D. I got to work with you. You know, I got to work with Jason from the 49ers. So, you know what I mean? It was just an amazing journey. And that's how I met Soul Chef, Thomas Prime, and all of those guys through exactly what we were doing in those circles. And, you know, we finally got to cross paths and make some things happen. So I appreciate you, brother. You know, both of y'all, you know, welcoming me into the fold, into your own. It's all love. I appreciate y'all. For real.
definitely, man. And shout out to Bandcamp for helping us meet. You know what I mean? 'Cause we met at a Bandcamp
Absolutely.
event.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Shouts out to Lucas at Bandcamp for sending that invite. That was real dope.
Absolutely. And my man Marcus J. Moore, who used to be with Bandcamp. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Marcus, another cool brother,
Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Well, we're about to
Wrap
wrap
it
it
up,
up, but thank you so much. This was amazing. You gave us a lot of gems, a lot of quotables.
Oh yeah, man.
We'll be sure to be adding that to the mix.
Yeah, for sure.
But thank you all for the audience, for you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. You know, we're here again every 2 weeks.
Who we got next?
Next up, we have two sisters.
Okay.
Okay, we have sisters Adrian and Nicole, who are artists and designers and also Pratt alums. So they'll be joining us in 2 weeks. So be sure to look out for that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and to everybody listening, if you are listening or you're watching the podcast, make sure you subscribe. Be sure to share it. If you know of up-and-coming artists, man, who could benefit from these stories, from this information,
absolutely
encourage them to tune in. You know, we are advocates of creatives, and we're just trying to keep people informed. And the folks that we invite here are people that we greatly respect and have seen a lot of success over the years, finding, along their journey, taking their own path. And so, again, man, shout out to our brother A1. We appreciate you, man. Have a great night. And to everybody else, man, thank you so much for listening or watching Artistry. All right, so we'll see y'all in a bit. All right, y'all be good.
Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Artistry, where art meets industry. Season 3 of Artistry is sponsored by Words, Beats, and Lyte. Visit www.wblinc.org to learn more. This podcast is produced by Substantial Art and Music. For more information, please visit www.subartandmusic.com. You can also follow us on social media at Sub Art and Music. Peace.